She walked into the restaurant with a tired but determined look, her shoulders carrying the weight of a day that had started before sunrise. Being a single mother meant there was no time for rest, no moments to herself, only the constant motion of making sure her child had what was needed for school, meals, and a life that felt fair even when it wasn't. The restaurant was her second home, not because it was perfect or welcoming, but because it paid the bills and allowed her some control over her schedule. She knew every corner, every table, and every regular customer, but the day was already shaping up to test her patience. The morning rush had just died down, leaving a quiet lull that made the restaurant feel larger and emptier than it really was. She moved gracefully, balancing plates and orders with the practiced skill that came from years of working in the service industry. Her mind was half on her job and half on the list of errands and responsibilities waiting for her after the shift. She loved the work in its own way, the small interactions with people who sometimes noticed her effort, the tiny moments that reminded her she was doing more than surviving. She was keeping a small dream alive. It was then that he walked in. Not a regular, not someone who lingered, just a presence that seemed to carry wealth without care, confidence without warmth. He was dressed impeccably, every detail perfect. A suit that cost more than some families spent in a month. Polished shoes that reflected the light from the large windows. She noticed him immediately because he stood out in a room full of ordinary people, the kind who came in for lunch and left a few dollars as thanks for her service. There was something about the way he carried himself, a quiet but heavy sort of authority, that made everyone in the restaurant notice. She felt it too, a little pinch of curiosity mixed with the professional instinct to be ready for anyone, no matter who they were. He took a table in the corner, away from most of the staff's usual paths. There was no need for introductions, no need for small talk, just the silent command that she understood meant he expected efficiency and discretion. She approached, offering a smile that she reserved for all her customers, polite and neutral, her eyes calm but alert. When he gave his order, it was simple, direct, a choice that didn't require explanation or questions. She nodded, taking note of his preferences with the precision that had kept her earning tips for years. Every detail mattered in this job. Every small gesture could earn appreciation or disappointment, and she had learned the hard way how fragile respect could be in her line of work. While the kitchen staff worked diligently to prepare the meal, she kept an eye on him, observing without intruding. He seemed distant, looking at his phone, barely acknowledging the quiet music in the background or the subtle chatter from other tables. She tried to read the situation, wondering if he was the type to be generous or indifferent, knowing that some people's wealth created an invisible shield between them and the world. Her mind wandered for a moment, imagining the life behind the suit, the meetings, the power, the decisions that shaped businesses and fortunes. She couldn't help but contrast it with her own life, the endless juggling of bills and childcare, the long nights and early mornings, the sacrifices no one saw. When she brought the food to the table, he looked up briefly, a polite nod, no smile, no warmth, just acknowledgement. She set the plates down carefully, noticing the precise way he arranged his cutlery and how he ate quietly, methodically. It was clear he was used to control, to everything being exactly as he wanted it. She asked if he needed anything else, her voice steady, professional, keeping her tone neutral, friendly but not intrusive. He shook his head, eyes back on the screen of his phone, and that was that. She left him to his meal, feeling the familiar mix of relief and slight disappointment that came with customers who didn't tip well or at all. She had seen it before, the wealthier ones often feeling that their presence was enough, that gratitude didn't need to be expressed in the small, tangible ways that made her life easier. As she returned to other tables, taking orders, refilling drinks, and answering questions, she couldn't shake the feeling of imbalance. It wasn't just the tip, it was the reminder of how differently people saw the world based on what they had. She knew she had worked hard, deserved every penny of what she earned, but sometimes the world seemed to test that, to see if she would crumble under the weight of unnoticed effort. Her thoughts flicked to her child, waiting at home with homework done, a snack ready, and eyes that looked to her for guidance and reassurance. She had to stay strong, keep her composure, and carry on as if every day would be like this, uncertain but manageable. Lunch ended. The billionaire rose and left. Brief nods to no one. No words. No gestures beyond the polite acknowledgement of departure. She watched him go, feeling a hollow sting where appreciation should have been. No tip left behind. Not a single token of thanks. Just the silent echo of presence and wealth, leaving her with a table cleared and a shift that continued onward. She shook her head slightly, trying to release the tension, knowing the day still had hours to go, knowing that she couldn't let this moment define her mood or her energy. There were other customers to serve, other stories to be part of, and she had to focus on them. She returned to the piano in the corner of the restaurant during a brief lull, fingers brushing lightly over the keys, coaxing out a few simple notes. Music was her release, a quiet sanctuary where she could let go of the stress and pressure for a few fleeting moments. The sound filled the empty spaces of the room, a gentle counterpoint to the silence left behind by the billionaire's departure. In that small moment, she allowed herself a breath, a thought that perhaps life had more in store than the immediate disappointment, that there might be unseen kindness waiting in the most unlikely forms. The day continued, orders coming and going, conversations with regular customers, the laughter of children in the corner booths, the clinking of plates, the hum of the kitchen. She moved among it all with practiced ease, her mind shifting between work and the small personal worries that never left. Yet the memory of the note she hadn't seen yet lingered unknowingly, a detail waiting to appear that could change everything. She didn't know it now, but the piano, the quiet corner, and her careful attention to every detail of the restaurant's rhythm would soon lead her to something unexpected. Something that reminded her that sometimes life's gestures came quietly, without warning, and had the power to alter a day, a week, even a life. The hours passed, sunlight giving way to the warm glow of evening lights. She continued her work, taking care of customers, balancing trays and orders, and keeping a friendly presence that belied the fatigue underneath. Every interaction required energy she didn't always feel, but she gave it anyway because she had to, because she cared, because in every smile and polite word, she saw the reflection of her own resilience. And as the last customer left, as plates were cleared and chairs stacked, she noticed something out of place. A small folded note rested on the piano, seemingly left behind, unnoticed until this quiet moment. She bent to pick it up, a sense of curiosity and anticipation stirring. In her hands, the day's disappointments and struggles seemed to pause, replaced by the simple, human intrigue of the unknown. Her fingers unfolded the paper carefully, revealing a message she had never expected. Words written not in arrogance or indifference, but in a way that would touch something deep inside her. It was the first step toward a story that would shift her perspective, remind her of life's small miracles, and prove that even in the toughest moments, unexpected kindness could appear where least expected. The rest of the day, and perhaps the rest of her life, was about to change in ways she couldn't yet imagine, all beginning with a note by the piano and a billionaire who had walked away without a tip. The waitress returned home after the long shift, her body heavy with fatigue, but her mind still buzzing with the small incident from the restaurant. The note by the piano played over in her thoughts repeatedly, a tiny spark of curiosity she could not shake. She entered her modest apartment, greeted by the soft laughter of her child, whose homework was spread across the small kitchen table. The contrast between the chaotic energy of the restaurant and the calm domestic life hit her in a gentle wave, a reminder of why she kept pushing through each day. She set her bag down, removed her shoes, and inhaled deeply, letting the familiar sense of home fill her senses. The evening routine was predictable but comforting. Dinner needed to be prepared, dishes washed, and a few errands completed, but these were small tasks compared to the constant worry about money, bills, and providing for her child. Her hands moved mechanically, chopping vegetables, stirring a pot, all while her mind drifted back to the note, imagining the words it might contain. Her curiosity was almost unbearable, like a tug on her thoughts that refused to be ignored. After dinner, she sat with her child, helping with homework and listening to the stories of the day. Her child's excitement was uncontained, and she smiled at the simple joy that seemed effortless to the young mind. She wanted to give that sense of security and happiness every day, even though life often made that difficult. The reality of their situation, the constant balancing act, never left her entirely. Yet, in these small moments, she felt purpose, pride, and a sense of hope that maybe the world was not entirely unforgiving. Once the homework was completed, she finally allowed herself to pull out the note. It had been resting on the piano corner of her mind all day, growing in significance with every passing hour. She unfolded it carefully, holding her breath, unsure what she would find. The words on the paper were unexpected, written with a sincerity that contrasted sharply with the man's earlier silence at the restaurant. It was a simple message, yet layered with meaning, expressing a kind of gratitude that did not need a tip or monetary value. It spoke of understanding, human connection, and the acknowledgement of hard work in a way that felt deeply personal. The message resonated with her more than she expected. It was as if someone had taken the time to see her, not just as a waitress performing her job, but as a person with a life full of struggles, responsibilities, and dreams. She read it several times, each pass revealing something new, a nuance in the phrasing, a hidden warmth she hadn't anticipated. Her eyes moistened slightly, and a rare smile touched her lips. This note, small and simple, was a rare gift in a world that often seemed indifferent. She placed the note down carefully, feeling a strange mixture of emotions. Relief, gratitude, surprise, and curiosity all mingled together. The day that had started with frustration and exhaustion now ended with an unexpected sense of validation. She realized that recognition did not always come from the most obvious gestures. Sometimes it came quietly, in a way that required patience and attention to notice. She held on to that thought, letting it settle in her heart as she prepared for the night ahead. Later, as she tucked her child into bed, she reflected on the struggles they faced together. Bills that never seemed to end, the constant need to stretch every dollar, the worry about unforeseen emergencies. These were the realities of her life. Yet, the note reminded her that human connection and kindness could exist even in unexpected forms. It was a reminder that while life could be harsh, there were moments that made the effort worthwhile. She kissed her child goodnight and closed the door softly, letting the quiet of the apartment surround her. The following days at the restaurant brought their usual rhythm, but with a subtle shift in her perspective. She moved through her work with renewed energy, engaging with customers with a warmth that felt effortless. The memory of the note stayed with her, giving her a sense of encouragement she hadn't realized she needed. Even when facing difficult patrons or stressful moments in the kitchen, she found herself grounded by the small but profound message of appreciation she had received. It reminded her that her efforts mattered, even if not everyone saw them. She also noticed herself becoming more attentive to the subtle gestures of others. A smile from a regular customer, a polite thank you, or a simple act of courtesy carried more weight now. She realized that recognition was not always about grand gestures. It could be as simple as acknowledgement and genuine human connection. In this way, the note had shifted her understanding of the world, teaching her to find gratitude in the small things, and to offer kindness whenever possible. Despite this newfound perspective, the financial pressures of her life remained. She still worried about bills, about how to manage unexpected expenses, and how to ensure her child had opportunities she herself had missed. Yet, the note gave her hope that things could improve, that human decency and attention could intersect with the challenges of daily life in unexpected ways. She became more determined to keep going, to face each day with patience and resilience, knowing that small gestures could carry significant weight. Her colleagues noticed a subtle change in her demeanor. She carried herself with more quiet confidence, her interactions infused with a warmth that was not performative but genuine. They began to notice the difference in how she approached her work, handling difficult situations with grace and calm that drew respect without requiring acknowledgement. The note had given her more than words. It had given her a reminder of her own strength, the strength she demonstrated every day in both visible and unseen ways. In the quiet moments, when she could steal a few minutes alone, she would sit at the piano, fingers brushing over the keys, letting music fill the space around her. The sound carried a peace and a release that mirrored the comfort she felt from the note. She realized that life's small comforts, music, a kind word, a simple message, could be powerful tools to sustain the human spirit. These moments allowed her to reset, gather strength, and continue her journey with a clearer sense of purpose. She began to share fragments of her experience with close friends, speaking cautiously about the unexpected note without revealing too much. The story sparked empathy, conversation, and reflection. Her friends, who knew the challenges she faced, were moved by the idea that such a small gesture could leave a lasting impact. They encouraged her, reminding her that recognition, even from strangers, had value and could change the way one viewed the world. In sharing the story, she found another layer of connection and understanding, reinforcing the lesson that kindness, in any form, mattered deeply. The waitress also thought about the billionaire in new ways. Initially, she had viewed him with a mixture of resentment and curiosity, frustrated by the lack of a tip and the distance in his demeanor. Now, she considered the possibility that people were often more complex than their outward appearances suggested. The note hinted at thoughtfulness, an acknowledgement of human effort, and a willingness to connect quietly. It challenged her assumptions and reminded her not to judge too quickly, reinforcing the lesson that appearances often hide deeper truths. As the week went on, she carried the note with her in her mind, a source of motivation and quiet reflection. It reminded her to approach each day with patience, to look for the subtle ways kindness can appear, and to value her own contributions even when they went unnoticed. The note became a symbol, small but potent, representing the unexpected moments that could alter one's perspective and sustain the spirit in difficult times. Through all of this, she remained a dedicated mother, ensuring that her child's needs were met, dreams nurtured, and life guided with care and attention. The challenges of single parenthood were ongoing, but the note had given her renewed energy to face them. She saw herself not just as a waitress or a caregiver, but as a resilient human being capable of enduring hardships while remaining open to the quiet miracles of life. Even in the routine of daily existence, she noticed changes in herself. Her patience deepened, her empathy expanded, and her awareness of others' struggles sharpened. She began to recognize the unseen efforts of her colleagues, offering small words of encouragement or acknowledgement that might have gone unnoticed before. The note had ignited a ripple effect, reminding her that even simple recognition could strengthen the bonds between people and elevate the human experience. By the end of the week, she felt a sense of balance she had not felt in a long time. The initial disappointment of the billionaire's absence of a tip had faded, replaced by the profound impact of the note. She realized that life could be unpredictable, that disappointment and hope often existed side by side, and that small gestures could hold immense power. In a world that sometimes seemed indifferent, she discovered a quiet strength within herself, nurtured by human connection and the unexpected kindness of someone who had chosen to reach out in a subtle but meaningful way. And so, the waitress continued her days with renewed determination, each moment colored by the memory of the note. It reminded her that even in the most ordinary circumstances, extraordinary moments could occur, and that resilience, patience, and an open heart could transform challenges into opportunities for growth and understanding. The note, small and seemingly insignificant, became a beacon of hope and a guiding force, influencing her actions, her thoughts, and the way she interacted with the world around her, shaping her journey in ways she was only beginning to comprehend. The next morning, she woke early, the soft light of dawn filtering through the curtains. The note from the previous day still lingered in her thoughts, a small flame of curiosity that refused to be extinguished. She went through her morning routine, preparing breakfast, helping her child get ready for school, and packing lunch with a careful hand, all while the words of the note replayed in her mind. She wondered about the person who had written it, what had motivated them, and whether they realized how much their simple message had meant. The thought brought a small, unexpected smile to her face. At the restaurant, the day began with its usual rhythm, the rush of customers and the clatter of dishes filling the space. Yet she carried herself differently, lighter somehow, more aware of the small gestures of connection and recognition around her. Each smile, each polite word from patrons, felt amplified, more significant than it had before. She moved through her duties with renewed energy, noticing details she might have overlooked. The way a customer's eyes lit up at a friendly greeting, the effort of a colleague handling a difficult order, or the quiet rhythm of the kitchen staff at work. The world seemed to have shifted slightly, and she felt a subtle but profound change within herself. During a quiet moment, she returned to the piano in the corner of the restaurant. The note had inspired her to play, to let music express feelings that words alone could not capture. She ran her fingers across the keys, producing soft, deliberate notes that filled the room with a gentle warmth. A few customers paused, listening for a moment, and she felt a connection with them through the music, a silent acknowledgement that life could hold beauty even in the midst of routine and stress. The piano had always been there, a silent witness to countless meals and conversations, but now it became a bridge between her emotions and the world around her. Later in the day, she noticed a familiar figure enter the restaurant. It was the billionaire from before, the one who had left without a tip but had unknowingly left something more valuable behind. He sat at a table in the same quiet corner, seemingly lost in thought, his presence commanding attention despite the busy atmosphere. She felt a moment of tension, unsure of how to approach, whether to acknowledge the previous encounter or maintain the professional distance she usually kept. Yet she also felt a flicker of hope, wondering if there was more to the story, if the note had been a small beginning of something larger. She approached the table carefully, offering the same polite, professional smile she always gave. He looked up, recognizing her, and this time there was a subtle shift in his expression, a hint of acknowledgement that went beyond mere politeness. He placed an order, simple and direct, and she attended to it with care, noticing a quiet intensity in his demeanor that suggested thoughtfulness beneath the surface. As she moved through her work, she found herself reflecting on the unpredictability of people, the complexity that lay beneath appearances, and the importance of not making assumptions based solely on what was visible. The day moved forward with its usual mix of challenges and small joys. She handled demanding customers, balanced multiple tasks at once, and maintained a friendly presence, all while carrying the quiet energy of the note in her mind. Each interaction became an opportunity to practice patience, empathy, and kindness, reinforcing the lessons she had begun to internalize. The note had not only validated her efforts but had also provided a lens through which to view the world more clearly, recognizing the subtle ways in which human connection could manifest. During a brief lull, she found herself reflecting on her life outside the restaurant. The responsibilities of being a single mother weighed heavily, the constant need to balance work, finances, and emotional support never ending. Yet the note served as a reminder that even in the midst of struggle, moments of recognition, understanding, and kindness could appear unexpectedly. It inspired her to look for opportunities to acknowledge others, to offer small gestures of appreciation that could make a significant difference in someone's day. The idea that kindness could ripple outward and create unforeseen impacts became increasingly real to her. As the shift progressed, she observed the billionaire occasionally glance toward the piano, his eyes betraying a curiosity or perhaps a recognition of the space that had previously been significant to her. She wondered whether he understood the impact of the note he had left, whether he realized how deeply it had touched her life and altered her perspective. The thought prompted a mixture of gratitude and intrigue, fueling her determination to continue approaching each day with an open heart and a patient mindset. After the restaurant quieted and the last customers left, she returned to the piano, folding the note carefully beside it. The act of placing the note near the piano became symbolic, a way of acknowledging that meaningful gestures did not always need to be loud or public. They could exist quietly, persist in memory, and influence behavior in subtle but profound ways. She sat at the piano and played for a long time, allowing the music to flow naturally, her fingers expressing the emotions she could not articulate in words alone. The room, empty of other sounds, became a sanctuary for reflection, a space where gratitude, hope, and resilience could coexist. Her colleagues, observing her calm and focused demeanor, began to notice a difference in how she handled stress and challenges. She offered encouragement, shared smiles, and handled difficult situations with an ease that inspired others. The impact of the note, though unseen by anyone else, extended outward through her actions, creating a more positive environment in the restaurant. The power of a single thoughtful gesture had not only changed her perspective, but had influenced those around her, demonstrating the ripple effect of human kindness. Later that evening, she returned home, carrying the quiet satisfaction of a day well lived despite its challenges. Her child greeted her with excitement, eager to share stories and experiences, and she listened attentively, cherishing the moments of connection that made all her efforts worthwhile. The note had become more than a simple piece of paper. It was a catalyst for reflection, growth, and appreciation for both the small and significant moments of life. She realized that even in the most ordinary days, extraordinary experiences could occur, reshaping one's outlook and inspiring a deeper sense of purpose. Over the next few days, she found herself noticing more subtle acts of kindness from others. An extra smile from a coworker, a thoughtful comment from a regular customer, a quiet expression of appreciation that might have gone unnoticed in the past. Each moment reinforced the lesson that recognition and gratitude could appear in many forms, not always monetary, and that these small acknowledgments carried profound significance. The note had illuminated a path, guiding her to see value in the overlooked and to respond with awareness and empathy. As the week progressed, she continued to balance her responsibilities with renewed energy. She managed the challenges of single parenthood, the demands of her job, and the ongoing pressures of daily life, but she did so with a strengthened sense of resilience. The note had provided a lens through which to view the world more thoughtfully, reminding her that small gestures of kindness could have transformative effects, not only on the recipient but also on those who witnessed or participated in them. One evening, after closing the restaurant, she found a quiet moment to sit by the piano and reflect. The note remained folded nearby, a tangible reminder of the unexpected connections that could emerge in life. She considered the billionaire, the person who had written it, and the intricate ways in which human interaction could unfold. The realization that a simple act could inspire gratitude, motivate change, and foster hope was profound. She allowed herself to feel a sense of gratitude not only for the note but for the clarity and perspective it had brought to her life. Her child, observing her focused expression, asked about her day, and she responded with honesty tempered by optimism. She spoke of challenges and rewards, of the importance of noticing kindness, and of how small actions could ripple outward, touching lives in ways often unseen. In this way, she shared a lesson that extended beyond the confines of the restaurant, embedding the values of empathy, resilience, and awareness into the foundation of her child's understanding of the world. Throughout the week, she continued to engage with her work and life through this renewed lens. Difficult customers, demanding shifts, and financial pressures remained, but they no longer defined her experience. Instead, she focused on the ways she could connect with others, recognize effort, and offer acknowledgement. The note had become a quiet guide, a reminder that human connection could be found in the most unexpected places, and that it often came with subtlety rather than grandeur. By the end of part 3, she felt a shift not only in her perspective but in the rhythm of her life. The note, initially a small, curious object left on a piano, had become a catalyst for reflection, empathy, and understanding. It influenced her interactions, her approach to challenges, and her awareness of the subtleties of human behavior. She realized that even in the routine of daily existence, profound lessons could emerge, and that her journey, though filled with struggle, was also rich with opportunities for connection, growth, and the discovery of unexpected kindness. Days passed, and the waitress found herself thinking more about the note and the person who had written it. The words lingered in her mind like a gentle whisper, reminding her that even small gestures could carry great meaning. Each day at the restaurant became a mix of routine and subtle observation. She noticed how customers interacted with her and the staff, how small smiles and polite words made the day lighter, and how a kind glance or acknowledgement could brighten the mood even without spoken words. Her awareness of these small moments grew, and she began to feel more connected to the people around her. The billionaire returned sporadically over the next few weeks. Each time, he remained quiet, ordering the same simple meals and leaving without much interaction. Yet there was a subtle change she noticed. A fleeting glance at the piano, a brief acknowledgement of her presence, a careful attention to how he moved through the space. She wondered if he remembered the note or if it had been part of a larger plan, but she chose not to dwell too much on it. Instead, she focused on the ways her own perspective had shifted. She no longer measured success or recognition purely by monetary means. She had come to understand that validation could come quietly, without fanfare, and that the small gestures people offered could hold significant weight. One afternoon, after a particularly busy lunch rush, she sat by the piano, allowing herself a few moments of reflection. The restaurant had quieted down, and the soft hum of the kitchen was the only sound accompanying her thoughts. She unfolded the note again, reading it slowly, savoring each word. It reminded her that someone had seen her efforts, someone had taken the time to acknowledge her hard work, and that recognition did not always come in expected ways. This realization filled her with a sense of calm and resilience, reinforcing the strength she already possessed. At home, her life remained a delicate balance. She managed household chores, her child's needs, and financial responsibilities with a constant awareness of limited time and resources. Yet the note served as a quiet reminder that life could offer unexpected encouragement. She began to apply this lesson in small ways, noticing the efforts of her child, the patience of friends, and the support of colleagues. Each recognition became a small act of gratitude, a way to honor the effort that often went unnoticed in daily life. She found herself writing short notes of encouragement or expressing simple words of appreciation, realizing how these gestures, though minor, could ripple outward in meaningful ways. The restaurant staff began to notice a subtle change in her attitude. She interacted with coworkers more openly, offering assistance and encouragement even in stressful moments. Her patience seemed deeper, her understanding more genuine, and her presence more reassuring. She had learned, through the unexpected gift of the note, that acknowledgement could transform not only the recipient but also those around them. The quiet power of recognition, she realized, could change the dynamic of a space, creating a sense of warmth and mutual respect that extended beyond individual actions. One evening, as she cleaned tables and organized the dining area, she reflected on the complexities of her life. The challenges of being a single parent remained, and financial pressures continued to test her resilience. Yet she approached each challenge with a renewed sense of purpose, drawing strength from the small but meaningful lesson the note had imparted. She realized that adversity was not only about hardship but also about the opportunity to grow, to find connection, and to recognize the value in the effort of oneself and others. Each day became a chance to apply this understanding, to live with awareness and empathy, and to seek moments of genuine connection in ordinary circumstances. The billionaire returned again, and this time she felt a quiet anticipation. She approached his table with the same professionalism and warmth, mindful of the subtle acknowledgement he now seemed to offer. He did not speak much, but his presence was different, lighter perhaps, as if he too carried an awareness that some interactions mattered more than appearances suggested. She served him attentively, noticing the precision in his movements and the careful consideration he gave to his surroundings. There was a quiet tension in the air, not of discomfort, but of mutual recognition, an unspoken understanding that each was aware of the small but significant gestures exchanged between them. After the restaurant closed that evening, she returned to the piano once more, folding the note carefully and placing it beside the keys. The act had become a ritual, a way to honor the significance of the words without letting them dominate her life. She played the piano softly, letting the music carry the emotions she could not fully express. Each note seemed to reflect gratitude, resilience, and a quiet hope that the world could offer meaningful gestures even amidst the challenges of daily life. The piano became not only a source of personal comfort, but also a symbol of the subtle ways in which human connection could be felt and shared. Her interactions with her child took on a similar depth. She encouraged her child to notice small acts of kindness, to recognize the efforts of others, and to understand the value of empathy and appreciation. She shared stories about the note in a way that emphasized the lesson rather than the person who wrote it, teaching that significance could exist in unexpected places and that acknowledgement could hold profound meaning. Her child began to mirror this awareness, offering small gestures of kindness at home and in school, and these moments brought her immense satisfaction and hope for the future. In her personal reflections, she often considered the billionaire and the circumstances that had led to the note. She acknowledged that while material wealth could create distance, it did not necessarily prevent meaningful connection. She understood that individuals were complex, and that a single gesture could reveal aspects of humanity often hidden by social or economic barriers. This insight reinforced her growing understanding of the importance of perspective, empathy, and the recognition of effort, not only in her own life but in the lives of those around her. The restaurant continued to be a place of routine, yet for her, it became a space of reflection and growth. She noticed more deeply the efforts of colleagues, the quiet contributions of staff, and the subtle acts of gratitude from customers. These observations allowed her to approach her work with renewed purpose, finding joy and meaning in what had once felt repetitive or burdensome. Each day became a practice of awareness, patience, and appreciation, demonstrating that even in ordinary environments, profound lessons and moments of connection could emerge. As the weeks went by, she found herself more resilient and focused, her understanding of human interaction deepening with each experience. She recognized that the note had not only validated her work, but had also provided a framework for how to approach life with awareness, empathy, and patience. It had become a touchstone, guiding her actions, interactions, and reflections in ways that were subtle yet profoundly impactful. She also noticed a shift in how she viewed her own contributions. The effort she put into her work, her role as a mother, and her interactions with others were no longer measured solely by tangible rewards or external acknowledgement. She began to understand that the significance of her actions often lay in the impact they had on the world around her, even when that impact was not immediately visible. This perspective allowed her to navigate challenges with greater ease, to approach her responsibilities with a sense of purpose, and to find fulfillment in the small but meaningful moments of daily life. One quiet evening, she found herself at the piano, reflecting on the journey that had begun with a simple note. The music she played seemed to carry the story of her growth, her observations, and her evolving understanding of human connection. Each note was a reminder that life could hold unexpected moments of recognition and kindness, and that these moments had the power to shape perspective, strengthen resilience, and inspire action. The note, small and seemingly simple, had become a catalyst for a deeper awareness of the value of acknowledgement, empathy, and meaningful connection. Her child, sensing the calm and focus in her demeanor, often joined her, listening to the music, asking questions, and sharing their own observations about kindness and effort. These shared moments reinforced the lessons she had internalized and allowed her to pass on the understanding that meaningful gestures, no matter how small, could influence the lives of others. In this way, the lesson of the note extended beyond her own experience, shaping the values and awareness of the next generation. By the end of Part 4, she had come to recognize the quiet power of acknowledgement and the significance of small gestures in shaping human experience. The note had not only influenced her perspective, but had also provided a framework for understanding the importance of empathy, patience, and appreciation. Her life, though still filled with challenges and responsibilities, had gained a sense of depth and richness that had been absent before. She had learned that meaningful connection often comes quietly, that recognition can take many forms, and that resilience and awareness are strengthened through attentive observation and thoughtful engagement with the world around her. The days turned into weeks, and the waitress continued her routine with a sense of quiet purpose. Each morning, she prepared her child for school, managed household tasks, and headed to the restaurant with renewed energy. She carried the memory of the note with her, letting its message shape her interactions, her thoughts, and the way she approached each day. The note had become a symbol, not of wealth or recognition, but of acknowledgement, kindness, and the subtle ways that people could make a difference in one another's lives. At the restaurant, she noticed the small ways in which her attitude influenced the environment. Colleagues responded to her encouragement, and she found herself fostering a sense of teamwork and mutual support. Customers noticed her warmth, and interactions became more meaningful, even if brief. She had learned that her effort mattered, not only for herself but for those around her. And this understanding deepened her sense of fulfillment. The daily challenges were still present. The busy shifts, demanding patrons, and constant juggling of responsibilities. But they no longer weighed her down as they had before. She approached each day with a mindset shaped by awareness, patience, and empathy. One evening, the billionaire returned once again. This time, there was a subtle shift in the air, a sense that something unspoken connected them. She approached his table, offering the same professional, calm demeanor, and noticed a faint smile in return. He did not speak much, but there was a recognition in his eyes that suggested an understanding beyond words. She carried out her duties with care, feeling a quiet sense of satisfaction in the small but meaningful acknowledgement passing between them. The note had started something larger than a simple act. It had created a bridge between two lives that might have otherwise remained disconnected. After the restaurant closed, she lingered by the piano, folding the note and placing it beside the keys. The ritual had become a source of comfort, a moment of reflection at the end of each day. She played the piano softly, letting the music carry her emotions, thoughts, and gratitude. The simple act of sitting at the piano became a meditation, a space where she could process her experiences and reaffirm the lessons she had learned. Each note reflected the subtle power of human connection, the impact of recognition, and the importance of resilience and hope in the face of life's challenges. Her child, observing these moments, began to absorb the lessons indirectly. The small gestures of acknowledgement, the attention to effort, and the appreciation of kindness became part of their understanding of the world. The waitress encouraged these values through conversation, stories, and shared experiences, teaching that empathy and recognition were as valuable as any tangible reward. She wanted her child to understand that life was full of small, meaningful moments and that noticing and valuing them was a way to enrich one's own life and the lives of others. The waitress also reflected on the broader meaning of the note. Initially, it had been a simple message left by a wealthy customer, but its significance extended far beyond the words themselves. It had prompted self-reflection, awareness of others, and a deeper understanding of the power of acknowledgement. She realized that recognition and kindness could take many forms, and that the value of such gestures was not always visible or immediate. This insight shaped her approach to life, influencing her actions, her responses to challenges, and the way she engaged with those around her. Over time, she began to notice more opportunities to act on these lessons. She offered encouragement to colleagues, small acts of assistance to customers, and words of affirmation to friends and family. Each gesture, though minor, created a ripple effect that extended beyond her immediate awareness. The impact of the note had multiplied in subtle ways, shaping her life and the lives of those around her. She saw firsthand that small acts of acknowledgement could strengthen relationships, foster community, and inspire hope. One day, after a particularly busy shift, she received a small, unexpected gesture from the billionaire. Without any fanfare, he handed her a letter, brief but thoughtful, expressing gratitude for her dedication and acknowledging the human connection they had shared through the note and their interactions. There was no material reward, no grand display of wealth, just genuine acknowledgement, sincere and personal. She felt a wave of emotion, not because of any financial benefit, but because of the recognition of her effort and presence as a human being. The gesture reinforced the lessons she had internalized and highlighted the quiet power of acknowledgement in human relationships. The waitress shared a careful version of the story with her child, emphasizing the importance of noticing and valuing effort, the significance of kindness, and the understanding that recognition could come in subtle, unexpected ways. Together, they discussed the meaning of gratitude, the value of empathy, and the impact that even small gestures could have on the lives of others. These conversations became a regular part of their lives, shaping values, building understanding, and reinforcing the lessons learned from a simple note. As weeks turned into months, she observed a transformation within herself. She felt more grounded, more patient, and more aware of the nuances in human behavior. Her approach to challenges became more thoughtful, her interactions more intentional, and her understanding of the world more nuanced. She had discovered that life was not only about overcoming obstacles, but also about noticing, appreciating, and acknowledging the efforts of herself and others. The note had become a touchstone, a reminder that meaningful gestures could exist quietly, without recognition, yet hold profound significance. In the restaurant, her colleagues benefited from the changes she had embraced. The environment became warmer, more supportive, and collaborative. Customers experienced a greater sense of connection, and the energy of the workplace shifted in subtle but meaningful ways. She realized that one person's perspective and actions could influence an entire environment, creating a chain of positive impact that extended beyond her immediate perception. The lessons of the note had multiplied, not through grand gestures, but through consistent awareness, recognition, and engagement. Even in moments of stress or difficulty, she drew strength from the message she had received. Challenges continued, as life always presented, but her response had evolved. She approached each situation with patience, empathy, and a sense of resilience informed by the understanding that effort and kindness mattered, regardless of immediate acknowledgement. She had learned to value her contributions and recognize the unseen impact of her actions, finding fulfillment in the knowledge that meaningful connections could shape experiences in ways not always visible. One quiet evening, after the restaurant had closed and the last customers had departed, she returned to the piano. The note rested beside the keys, a tangible reminder of the journey she had experienced. She played softly, letting the music express gratitude, reflection, and hope. Each note carried the story of growth, awareness, and the subtle power of acknowledgement. In that moment, she recognized the profound impact that a small, thoughtful gesture could have on a person's life, shaping perspective, reinforcing resilience, and inspiring meaningful action. Her child joined her, listening and occasionally commenting, and she shared stories and reflections, emphasizing the value of noticing kindness, appreciating effort, and understanding the power of acknowledgement. These shared moments reinforced the lessons in a tangible, lived way, creating a foundation of values that would guide both of them through life. The note, simple in appearance but profound in effect, had become a lasting influence on their shared understanding of empathy, connection, and the quiet power of recognition. The waitress understood that life would continue to present challenges, that financial pressures, demanding work, and personal responsibilities would not disappear. Yet she faced each day with renewed confidence, knowing that meaningful gestures, subtle acknowledgement, and awareness of others could enrich experiences and sustain hope. She had learned that recognition was not always public, not always monetary, but could be deeply significant when offered sincerely. This understanding shaped her actions, her mindset, and the way she engaged with the world. By the end of Part 5, she had grown in resilience, awareness, and appreciation for the small but meaningful moments of life. The note, a simple gesture left by a billionaire who had once left no tip, had catalyzed a journey of reflection, growth, and connection. She had learned that human kindness could appear quietly, that acknowledgement could shape perspective, and that even in ordinary circumstances, extraordinary lessons could emerge. Her life, though filled with the ongoing challenges of work, parenting, and daily responsibilities, was enriched by the quiet power of recognition, empathy, and the subtle, transformative influence of a thoughtful gesture.